Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight in Our News. Storm shelter residents express concerns over a confirmed case of tuberculosis among them. Plus, the Chief Justice slams bail critics and new attorneys call to the bar.
Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Welcome to Our News, and thanks for joining us. I'm Jared Higgs. Topping news tonight, a 15-year-old displaced student tested positive for tuberculosis, according to Health Minister Dr. Dwayne Sands. Now, all of his classmates are going to be tested.
If it's in the air, anyone here could have it.
51-year-old Anthony GERIMI says he didn't know that a fellow shelter resident had tested positive for tuberculosis. According to health officials, screening at the gym began on Thursday after the positive test came back on December 6. All persons in the gym and staff will get skin tests, with those testing positive being sent to have chest x-rays done. So far, more than 30 people have had positive skin tests. GERIMI says doctors regularly come by the shelter to see patients, but he hasn't seen or received any notice about the respiratory infection.
If something major thing happen like that, you're supposed to have a meeting with everybody and then let everybody know, hey, here's why we're doing this, is that and that. But I don't know if they do that when I'm not there, but I never see and heard anything like that.
Earlier this year, 2 students, one from Government High School and the other from A.F. Adderley Junior School, tested positive for tuberculosis. The confirmed cases are particularly concerning, given the large number of evacuees staying and sleeping in close proximity in the shelters. Carleen Edgecombe says she is lucky to have a home to stay in, but she feels deeply for her fellow former Abaco residents who are, in many cases, uncertain about what the future holds.
I am concerned about them because we from one place. All these people who in there, we from one place, one area. Haitians versus Haitians.
A small reprieve for these shelter evacuees is that they will be able to remain in the shelters through the holidays. Edgecombe asks, what other option do they have besides the shelter?
If they don't stay there, where they going?
I don't know.
That's the problem. If they put them out, they can't go nowhere.
GERIMI, on the other hand, is stuck in the shelter for now. Concerns over tuberculosis added to the list of his concerns. Asked how he felt about the extension on his shelter stay, the carpenter and 25-year Abaco resident said this.
Be honest with you, I really don't know what I'm gonna do yet. Because I don't got nowhere to go, and I don't have no money to just, okay, rent a place. They was promised us, they said, if we find a place, they're gonna pay first and last month for us. But I'm fishing looking for a place now, but I ain't find no place yet. And I realize if you don't find a place, I don't think they're gonna do anything.
Chief Justice Brian MOREE, QC, is slamming critics who claim the granting of bail in courts across the Bahamas has consistently contributed to the high levels of crime in recent years. Jasmine Brown reports.
The Chief Justice broke his silence on the matter after several high-ranking officials and law enforcement have linked bail with the high crime rate. MOREE maintains the issue of bail is more complex than that argument.
I think it's oversimplistic to simply say that the crime is so high because people are on bail committing crimes, and they should all be locked up. I mean, it's a little bit more complicated than that.
National Security Minister Marvin Dames recently told the media that bail for prolific offenders remains a challenge in the fight against crime and insisted that the justice system is in dire need of reform. The National Security Minister added that oftentimes offenders on bail commit more serious crimes or end up dead. Back in 2015, then State Minister for National Security Keith Bell told the press that the granting of bail to people charged with serious crimes is indirectly contributing to the country's crime rate. But the CJ insisted the courts are only following the law.
In terms of whether bail should be granted or not, I would like the public to understand that we are constrained by legal principles. And we don't want to live in a country where the minute somebody is arrested, then that means that the presumption is that they should not get bail, and that they're going to be sitting in jail until their trial, particularly bearing in mind that the period between being charged and your trial coming on, assuming you plead not guilty, is quite long.
MOREE explained in order for the bail issue to be addressed, the remand periods need to be fixed.
And we're trying to reduce this remand period by bringing on trials a little more quickly than we have in the past.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Thanks, Jasmine. 3 months after Hurricane Dorian lashed Abaco and Grand Bahama, Bahamas Air is set to resume international flight services into those storm-ravaged islands. The national flag carrier announced that its Marsh Harbor to West Palm Beach, Florida route will resume on Sunday, and the Freeport to Fort Lauderdale route will resume on Monday. International flights into both islands were suspended after the airports were severely damaged. The airline stressed that passengers must present a valid U.S. visa upon their arrival in Florida. Deputy Prime Minister Peter Turnquest has asserted the level of support the Bahamas received in the aftermath of Hurricane Dorian was because of the respect the international community has for Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis. However, English and MP Glenys HANNA-MARTIN questioned if Turnquest was implying that the international community's response was not because of the Bahamian people's suffering. George O'Bain reports.
Angliston MP Glenys HANNA-MARTIN taking issue with comments made by Deputy Prime Minister Peter Turnquest in the House of Assembly on Wednesday during his contribution to debate on a resolution expressing confidence in Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis. Turnquest said the level of support the Bahamas received in the aftermath of Hurricane Dorian was because of the respect the international community has for Minnis. Well, HANNA-MARTIN says those comments prove the DPM is divorced from reality.
And just reality in general, to be so self-obsessed with the performance of themselves and not to appreciate that the world saw a terrible natural disaster which wiped out, killed people, devastated a nation, and to think that people responded who saw all those things, who saw that suffering, that they responded because of a political group.
HANNA-MARTIN said she could not believe what she was hearing and shared the DPM's comments on social media. She accused the government of losing touch with the Bahamian people.
He accused me of misrepresenting what he said. Then he said what he said, which is what I said he said. And it was just more of the same. I'm wondering, I was a bit concerned that to see responses in that nature that seemed not to be cognizant of reality.
While Hurricanes Sandy, Matthew, and Joaquin struck the Bahamas under the most recent Christie administration, Dorian was the strongest hurricane to hit the Bahamas in recorded history. It leveled parts of Abaco and Grand Bahama in early September, leaving at least 70 people dead and thousands displaced. However, HANNA-MARTIN says the government seems to be too reliant on assistance of non-profit organizations in the aftermath of the storm instead of getting more hands-on.
There's a lag. I think that they have relied very heavily on NGOs and international agencies, which is nothing wrong with them, but I think that you're seeing gaps. We saw that with the El Greco, where a benefactor cave free for months, 11 families, free accommodation, and then when that ended, they fell between the cracks.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Giorgio Bay.
Thanks, Giorgio. Well, it was an emotional day at the Supreme Court as the children of several prominent members of the legal fraternity were called to the bar this afternoon. Among those presenting their petitions were former State Minister of Legal Affairs Damian Gomez, QC, Anglican MP Glenys HANNA-MARTIN, former MP Pleasant Bridgewater, Supreme Court Justice Ian Winder, and noted attorney Wayne Monroe, QC.
You have today entered into a noble profession. It is one of the oldest and most important professions in this country. Important not only because you have become officers of this court, but also because, as attorneys, you are the bulwark in the protection of the rights of the citizens and residents of this country. As with all professions, you have joined the leadership class in our country. You've all been trained in the ethical duties of the attorney, the duties to your clients, to your fellow attorneys, and more importantly, to the court.
Among those robed were Ian Winder, he's the son of Justice Ian Winder, and Denise Newton, she's the daughter of Justice Donna Newton.
Half of you are now second-generation lawyers, and some of you are the children of judicial officers. Let me be the first to tell you that you will, regrettably, be judged differently from your peers. You will get no preference. But we know your parents. They have earned the respect of the bench and the bar, and our higher expectation of you reflects the good names that have been made by them over the many years. Do not let your side down.
Still to come, a teen girl lands a 4-year scholarship and a new job. Stay tuned.